everybody. Thanks for joining us here on KGW Plus. I'm Stephanie Domurat. Now, this is a big day here at KGW. All of us here on the team, along with many of you, look forward to this every year because today is the day that Rod will reveal his winter weather outlook. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of what we can expect this season, I want you to remind viewers how long you spend preparing this.
So I'm glad you're here joining me. I hope you find it interesting along with our viewers.
Yes.
So I started doing this in the winter, going into the winter of 2000-2001. Kind of toying with it, right? I was trying to come up with something every year, know where the National Weather Service says, you're going to be above normal, you're going to be below normal, you're going to be normal. I'm like, there's got to be more to it than that. So started toying with it. It's over 20 years ago, and then started to get some success. And now all total, starting about the first week of September, I start spending an hour or two here and there, and that gets into some long weekends. All my stuff's out at the kitchen table, and that's all I'm doing. Well, but honestly, if you add it all up, we're probably talking anywhere between 40 and over 50 hours of work.
Wow.
Just going through all of my books and research. And I am able to do this, Stephanie, because I've been keeping all my own weather logs.
Yes.
Since I moved to Portland. Again, that started back in April of 1999. So a long time.
That's critical, that you have that experience every year, every winter, and you're giving us the analysis on what it all means. So, of course, the big question, what can we expect this winter? Will we get snow?
So I'm going to answer that right now. Do you want to know? Do you want to know?
I do.
She wants to know. I think yes. Last year we only had 3 inches and it was in February. I think this year the odds favor, and I'll take you into this, of us getting a decent old-fashioned snowstorm.
Okay.
What does that mean to you? How many inches when I say decent old-fashioned snowstorm?
6 inches, maybe.
Okay. All right. Low bar.
Okay. I'm from California, so, sounds like a lot to me.
Yeah, 6, 7, 8 or more. I agree. Real quick, because I think it's important to do this, right, to grade myself. So this is the report card from last year. And what did I miss last year? The first thing I said, well, I didn't get that right. And I don't think it was a huge thing, but I did predict a drier than normal rainy season, which is basically November 1 through March 31st. I thought we'd have 21.5 inches. We got a couple inches more than that. Total precip 24.5. But I said below normal. We're actually about an inch above normal, so that was a miss. We did say in Portland, anything that we got would be snow, not ice, and that was true. We got that 3 inches in February of snow, and that was it. I realized down in Albany and Eugene, you folks watching remember that. It was freezing rain for you. Valley mean temperatures were somewhat close to normal. Yeah, we were actually a degree above. This was my biggest feather in the cap last year. We made a big deal out of it being the earliest start to a good snowpack on Mount Hood in years. And remember, last year was on the heels of the year before that had no snow up at Government Camp Christmas week. Do you remember that? There was no snow up there.
Yep.
And we correctly predicted that. And then last year we correctly said, this is going to be the biggest thing. I think Bachelor said it was one of their biggest or earliest openings, the 14th day of November in like 50 years. And this is cool. This is the type of detail, Stephanie, that I try to get into. We said in October that on Christmas Day, Timberline would have a 75-inch base. They actually had a 76-inch base.
Yes. Round of applause.
Like I like to say, you can't make that up.
That's really great.
Any questions about, does that all make sense? Kind of the report card.
Well, so last year we saw the snow early, you said at Mount Hood. Of course, skiers, snowboarders excited about that. This year we saw some dumping over the weekend, right?
We did. We picked up 20 inches of snow up there over the weekend ending Monday morning.
Yeah.
So you're thinking,
is this going to be good?
Yeah, right. This is going to be good, right? You're getting into it. I think there's a lot of parallels this winter from last winter. I don't know if we're going to have as robust of a start, but I think it's going to be a healthy start this winter. And we're looking at actually video from Timberline Lodge. This was recently this month. I think this was over the weekend actually when they picked up all that snow up there. And when was this?
This
now I'm
year?
confused.
I'll ask our producers if this is.
This was 3 days ago. So they did have people up there cross-country skiing.
I mean, this looks like the middle of winter.
Yeah, it does. All right.
Yeah.
Well, see, I can't tell because I'm in the cozy confines of the KGW weather office, but that's the way it looked. So I mentioned there were a lot of parallels from last winter to this winter. So everything hinges on, and you and I were chatting about this before we started doing our live stream here. Everything hinges on, is it La Nina, is it neutral, is it El Nino, what we call the INSO cycle. Remember, El Nino means if you go down off the coast of South America near the equator, you've got above normal water temperatures. La Nina, cooler water temperatures. Neutral is even, so right here. So here was the deal. If you remember last winter, it was supposed to be a La Nina as early as July. It was late December before it developed. and then it was gone by the 1st of March.
Can you remind viewers when you say it was La Nina as early as July, or it was supposed to be, what does that mean exactly to everyday people here?
So like a lot of things in life, terms have stereotypes, right? So the stereotype I think people have been taught to memorize is that La Nina can be kind of active and maybe colder than normal, good snow, good rain. El Nino can be the opposite, can be kind of a warm, mild winter and maybe not that active.
Okay.
Now, the stereotypes can be incorrect, and I'll get into why that is. But I do want to point out that this time around, instead of starting off kind of neutral and then becoming a La Nina, we're going to do the opposite. We're starting off with a weak La Nina. We're in that right now. And then by the end of December, we could be back up to neutral. And then we're out of it. I will tell you that neutral is the one that often gets the biggest storms and the biggest action.
Wow.
Which is sad because I feel like people buy the El Nino t-shirts and the La Nina t-shirts, but really it can be neutral that brings you the most exciting action.
Well, because I feel like I've never really heard just it'll be neutral. I've
Yeah,
really heard that.
and it doesn't sound very exciting, does it?
Right, yeah.
But it can be. All right, La Nina. We mentioned the stereotype is it's active because typically with La Nina seasons, the stronger the La Nina, the more true this is. The jet stream comes into Oregon and Washington. That's where it sets up. So you get the highest number of storm fronts. And if it's a strong La Nina, that really can pay big dividends. But remember this time around, like last winter, we're talking about a brief weak La Nina. And weak La Ninas actually are the opposite. They average, if you go back to 2000, to have below normal rainy season precipitation. Now that wasn't true last year. Last year we actually were about an inch above normal. So we'll see if the data set proves correctly this time around, which would have us be roughly a little bit below normal when compared. And by the way, all these things are averaged, as I mentioned, on March to November. Portland typically gets for the 5-month rainy season 23.90 inches. Okay. You found this interesting, Stephanie, when I showed you this earlier. This is the outlook that NOAA puts out. So last winter, NOAA said Pacific Northwest is going to be colder than normal, it's going to be wetter than normal. Up top is this year's outlook. It's identical. I mean, you couldn't trace the maps almost to be so identical, right?
Looks like the middle of the country is a little bit different over here on the wet. Yeah. But generally, right?
You're right. Yeah, the Ohio Valley a little bit more robust in terms of above. But for us, they're basically saying it's supposed to be it's supposed to be colder than normal, wetter than normal. Last year it was wetter than normal, but it was actually warmer than normal. It wasn't colder. We'll see how that plays out. So anybody that does seasonal outlook will tell you, you've got to find comparison years. How do I find these years? This year I've got 5 comparison years. The winter that was 2001, 2016, 17, 22, 24, which was last winter, is actually a comparison year. What I'm doing is I'm looking at what those water temperatures are supposed to be off the coast of South America, and then I'll go back, because I've got all this catalog, and NOAA puts this online, they catalog it. I'll go back and find similar water temperature years.
Okay.
So that's what I've done here. So the outlier is the winter of 2000, 2001, which was crazy dry. We were not even 50% of normal precip. Wow. We were below that. There was no snow. It was fairly cold. And so you look at all this. I just want to focus on what stands out to me when I made this graphic. I'm like, what stands out to you, Stephanie? I'm going to ask you real quick. I know it's a lot on here to look at. But real quick, is there anything that catches your eye?
I guess I just really remember these years being pretty critical. We had a late snow, right?
Yeah.
It was like April. I remember.
Oh, you're right.
That
yes.
was wild.
Yes.
It was a wild year.
Yeah.
I think these 2 years
stood
out in my recent memory.
Here's what catches my. You're not wrong.
Okay.
I mean, I like it.
Okay.
But I catch February snow, February snow, February snow.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, based on this, the best chance for snow overall, if you're computing data set averages, would be February. So my conclusions, and also you've got a couple of cold winters here. You've got January, winter of 2016-17. What this minus 10, if you round it up, represents is every month was below normal by a certain degree. And if you add those up, that's what that figure is. But there's nothing significantly warm. So my conclusions were a significant cold winter is at least a possibility, but a significantly warm winter is not. Okay.
I do have a question.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. When you're looking at, okay, it's going to be maybe wetter, it'll be colder, we'll have more moisture. Is there a way to indicate more likely that we would see that freezing rain that people really don't like versus snow? Or is that just, you got an answer?
I'm glad you asked that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Because 2 winters ago, we said during this outlook, if we get a winter storm this year, I wasn't sure if we would, but if we did, it would be almost all ice and no snow. And we further said it would happen in the back half of February. That was the year, I believe the date was February 19th. We had a straight out freezing rain ice storm with no snow in Portland.
Yeah.
So we can do that. I mean, understand, I'm not a magician. I'm basically taking averages from data sets, and sometimes the averages are compelling. But remember, even a 90% average means 10% of the time that didn't come true.
Yeah.
So far, the averages have been playing in my favor the last handful of years, and I haven't had egg on my, you see an egg on my face yet? No?
It's looking clean.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I mean, I'm impressed that you can tell us the weather days in advance. So this sort of thing to me is very impressive.
So the big takeaway again, no chance of a really warm winter, but at least a chance that it could be surprisingly really cold, and the best chance for any snow is February. All right, this looks to be gobbledygook, doesn't it? You get anything from this?
Not really.
All right.
Break it down for us.
But you know, when you watch TV weather, we talk about the jet stream. You probably heard us say, hey, the weather flow coming in is this or that.
Right.
So we do this on a daily basis. I'm just looking at monthly averages of what those weather flows were. So this is last year. And all I want you to get from this is, as a forecaster, this was last year. The flow pattern this November is almost identical to what we had last November. The flow pattern this coming January is almost identical. December is the one that looks different than a year ago. So, all right, I'm going to click it. Here's what the outlook shows for this coming winter.
Yeah.
Now, November a year ago was averaged out to be warm. It was really wet. We had over 6 inches of rain. So, kind of a mild, wet November, okay. But last December was 3 degrees above normal when you averaged out the entire month. This year I'm going 1 degree colder than normal. That's a 4-degree swing in temperature. What I am also noticing here, just by flow pattern, is the rain bullseye would be maybe California, Nevada, and we would be a little bit drier than we were a year ago. But this is a colder pattern significantly than December. Last January was really dry. See that there's a little ridging, a little arcing right here? So if that's the case, it would be a dry January again. So pressure height forecasting, when I learned how to be a forecaster from a gentleman by the name of Craig James, who was an old Air Force forecaster, brilliant man, in my opinion, that I learned from when I worked up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He was big on pressure heights, and they really are one of the main roadmaps we use to make conclusions in the forecast business. What's going on with the flow patterns aloft? Does
Makes
that
sense.
at least sound impressive?
Very, very
Okay.
impressive.
That's what we're going for.
Yeah.
All right, you ready for some conclusions?
Yes.
All right, let's start off with temperature. Nothing overly sexy here, if you will. November through March, I think there's a better chance of being below normal than above, but no huge seasonal average deviations. Most likely colder than normal months, what we just talked about, December, and then also February. So those are the 2 months, I think, if we're going to have months where you're like, man, it really has been cold for a stretch of time, it's going to be those 2 months. Not much to go on in November or January. They're all kind of close to normal. I am watching this January of 2017 is in the data set. That was a January that was super cold. It produced 8 to 14 inches of snow, and it was about 18 degrees colder than normal. It's in the data set. It's in the data set.
We like data.
We like data. All right, this is the money graphic. Everybody wants to know, is it going to snow? It's the first thing you asked me.
Yeah, big question.
So here's where we go. Last year, we told you, and we were correct, that there was no chance at all of any snow or ice in Portland until after the first of the year. This year, I'm telling you, there's a reasonable chance that we'll have a little mini event at some point in December, just like an inch or 2 or maybe 3.
Around Christmas, maybe.
Maybe, absolutely.
Okay.
Does that make you happy?
I mean,
are you a white Christmas lover?
Who isn't?
Okay.
Come on.
January, snowstorm chances show up at only 20%. February snow chances show up, but the chance bumps to 70%. So think of this. You're at a basketball game. You're watching the Blazers. Time is running out. You need to make one free throw to win the game. If the guy at the line's shooting 70% and they announce that, you're feeling all right. Yeah. It's not a slam dunk he's going to make it, but there's a good chance. That's the way, if he's only a 20% foul shooter, you're like.
Yeah.
So there's a much better chance of snow in February than January.
And a little more this year.
Yeah, last year we only had 3 inches. This year I think we at least get 6. The average, by the way, is only 4.2 because our snow patterns are sporadic. As you know, Stephanie, we can go seasons with nothing and then we can get really hammered.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. All right. Total precip, again, the only thing I really want that stands out to me is this dry January. Last year we only had about 50% of normal precip in January, including mountain snow was really down. That could happen once again.
Okay, and not dry January, like skipping the alcohol, but like just might be a little more dry that year.
Yes, exactly right. All right, we're gonna get into Mount Hood. This is my last bit. So La Nina winters average out to be the biggest snowmakers in the Cascades, more so than neutral years, more so than El Nino years. And this year, remember, we start off La Nina and then we go to neutral. So we're kind of in between here. So you're thinking 80-some% to maybe 100% normal, right? That's what you're thinking.
Higher
Here we
percent,
go.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're going to be similar to last year. I think we're going to have a good solid start, including Thanksgiving openings. I think the basis Christmas week are going to be great, back up to 70 plus in Timberline, at least over 15 meadows. Ski-Bowl would be open with about 3 feet of snow on the ground. 85% of normal snowpack would actually equal last year's for the entire season. So again, a good healthy start. I mean, last year was just crazy how much snow we got in the first 2 weeks of December. I don't know if we're going to do that, but I like our chances here pretty good. Okay. Are you a skier or boarder? Do you go up?
No, I'm not, but it's pretty. I like it. I like
Yeah,
looking at
no,
it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Since I've gotten older, I don't like being cold, which
Me
kind of
too.
ruins the whole snow skiing
Yeah,
thing.
same.
So, you know.
Same reasons. Yeah.
All right. And then again, just to kind of bring it home for Portland, rainfall slightly below normal, but no big deviation. Could January be super dry? And there's that snowstorm, 6 to 8 inches in February. That's probably the main thing I'm going to hang my hat on. If we get a snowstorm in February, I will proclaim victory. And if we don't, I'll go on vacation. And you'll never hear a sound from me ever again. Any
This was
questions
great.
about that?
No, I love this.
Want to see one more great picture? That's my dog Maximus.
Oh, see, look how pretty that is.
He likes the snow. Maximus is, I always end with a picture of Maximus. He's 10. He turned 10 years old earlier in the month.
Good call. Rod, thanks so much. This was great.
Did you find it interesting?
Yes, learned a lot. And looking forward to maybe a little snow in December and February. So.
Yes. What a journalist.
Rod, thank you. And thanks for joining us here on KGW Plus.